Hello and welcome back, and today is my championship predictions. So yeah, nice and simple, just going to go 24th to 1st, predicting the championship table for the 25-26 season. And yeah, let's get right into it. So starting off, bottom of the league, pretty standard. I think literally everyone predicting the championship is going to go with this. 24th, Sheffield Wednesday. It's been a disastrous summer. I mean, there's concerns about whether they'll be able to field a competitive team for the season. There's concerns over whether, more broadly, the club will even exist come the end of the season. You know, we don't want another Bury, especially to such a historic club, but obviously the situation is pretty dire at Sheffield Wednesday, and I don't see any situation where they survive. Relegation I view as inevitable. Hopefully they just don't go under. That's the main thing going into this season for Sheffield Wednesday. So moving on to 23rd, this is probably a little bit more controversial because a lot of people probably have them staying up, but I think they're going to go down. I've gone with Hull, and that is a bit controversial. I feel a bit 50-50 about them. It's been a promising pre-season, but I don't want to read too much into pre-season for Hull. And to be fair, my gut feeling was that they would drop down to League One this season, and that's kind of why I'm sticking by it. There is a potential for them to kick on and build from last season's finish, but I just don't feel it. I think they will go down. They lack depth, particularly in attacking areas, and there's some EFL restrictions on the club which is making it difficult to register players. It's been a bit of a mess of a summer for Hull, but there's no doubting this could be way off as a prediction if Hull do get it right between now and the end of the window. 22nd and my final relegated team. I'm going with Oxford United, and I might be underestimating Oxford. But I see this as a very competitive championship season, particularly at the bottom, and I think Oxford will be one of the teams to fall victim to the trapdoor. Gary Rowett is a top manager, and defensively the team is fairly good, but I think they have a real lack of attacking quality, and I just wonder where the goals are going to come from to keep them in the division. So I do think they will go down this season. Moving on now to 21st, and that's Charlton Athletic. I think they'll just about survive the drop. They've had a busy summer and there's a feeling of excitement around the club, but I still don't think they have enough to make major strides up the table, albeit I don't see them getting relegated, which is a big achievement in itself, to be honest. 20th, I've gone with Preston North End, who I've seen a fair amount of people saying will drop down this season. I can't see it. They acted fairly quickly at the beginning of the window to attempt to revamp their squad, with lots of deals being done prior to pre-season, which is really important. However, as with some of the other teams already said, there's a lack of quality and a lack of goal threat in the final third. I don't know where the goals are going to come from for them, so I can't put them too high. They lack the creativity to create chances. I just think they could be in trouble. I think they probably will drop into the relegation zone throughout the season, but I do think they'll just about stay up. 19th, and I've gone with Portsmouth, and I do think there is a chance Portsmouth could improve a bit more from last year and establish themselves as a mid-table championship side. But having said that, I don't think another season of survival in 19th is at all a bad season for Portsmouth, and it would be a good year for them to build off for next year. They've got some good forward players that could help them, but they do lack depth, which, especially if they face major injuries like they did last year, could prevent them from jumping up the league too far. I mean, overall, I think 19th, as I say, is a fairly reasonable season for Portsmouth fans. I think they'd take that. 18th, we've got Stoke City. And last year was a mixed and a messy campaign for them, which left them constantly in danger of the drop. They're constantly hyped up as a team that can do big things and finish higher in the table, but for me, there isn't going to be any real improvement for Stoke, and at the same time, I just can't see them going down. So this just seems about right for Stoke, to be honest. This is where they've been for so many years in this margin of the table. I think they've been like 16, 17, 18, and I'm going to go 18 here as well. So, yeah, more of the same for Stoke, unfortunately. moving on now to 17th, and it is Blackburn Rovers, a team which just confuses me. They're so hard to predict. Over the last 3 seasons, they finished 7th, then 19th, and then 7th again. They're an up and down side, and they are going to be very difficult to predict, as I say. I think they did overperform to an extent last season, and looking at their squad, it feels weaker than what it was last year as well. And I think 17th just makes sense for Blackburn when you see the teams above. I don't think any of the teams above are going to finish behind them, most likely, but anything could happen. They could be higher, they could be lower. Who knows with Blackburn, to be honest. It's impossible to predict where they're going to be. Very few people will get this bang on. 16th, I've gone with QPR, and this is roughly where QPR finished last season. I think they lack the depth to jump up the table much, and I think 16th just feels about right. To be fair, this part of the table, from QPR upwards for a few teams, I see it being incredibly tight, and there is room for them to all move about a little bit. But yeah, I think 16th is about right for QPR. Moving on to 15th, I've gone with Swansea, and I have no idea what to think about Swansea. They lack goal scorers for sure, but the rest of the squad looks pretty decent, so 15th you could argue is low. But I'm not really sure what to make of their manager. It's going to be a crucial season for him to see if he can deliver, given he improved the team at the back end of last year. But can he substantially improve them and make them push further up the table? I don't know. I think 15th is fair enough for Swansea, to be honest. 14th, I've gone with Derby County, and you could argue this is too high for Derby, but I think they will kick on this season. They've had a proactive window and added goals. They've added experience as well, which is fundamentally important. I rate the manager, and I think he can deliver a very decent season for Derby next season. 13th, I've gone with Bristol City. And yes, it's been a year of change for Bristol City. Liam Manning moving to Norwich is obviously a blow. The new manager doesn't look too bad, but obviously it's a change in manager, and that can create a little bit of chaos inside the club. I think that will cause a little bit of a regression for them, but they might surprise me. They might push into the playoffs again. But for me, 13th is a reasonable season for Bristol. 12th, I've gone with Wrexham, and yeah, I've got no idea what to think about Wrexham. They have money to spend still, and they will bring new players in if they end up in a relegation battle. This is what I mean, like they can still bring more players in this summer window, and if they end up in a relegation battle, they will spend money in January as well to make sure they don't go down. They have money on their side, and they don't lack the depth that the previous teams have spoken about too, albeit that depth was League One depth. But I just think Wrexham will finish around this part of the table, in the mid-table. I can't see them being heavily involved in a relegation battle or a promotion fight. So I think 12th is probably about right for Wrexham, to be honest. Moving on to 11th, I've gone with Watford. And you know what, I've got a bit of a feeling it might work a little bit more for Watford this season. They look like an exciting team. They've kept hold of top players. They've made good signings, and the squad now feels like it has a bit of a better balance to it. I'm not going to throw Watford too far up the table, but I do think this could be a fairly important season for Watford, a year of building towards a proper playoff push next season to try and return to the Premier League in the near future. But it's such a competitive championship, it's so hard to get promoted, but I think it'll be a very big step forward year for Watford. In 10th, I've gone with West Brom. I think they're going to miss out on playoffs this season purely based on, I just don't think Ryan Mason is going to deliver for this team. I just don't. I think the squad is good enough to make playoffs, but for me, the big unknown about Ryan Mason pulls them down for me outside, down to 10th. 9th, I've gone with Middlesbrough. It's another tough team to predict. They haven't done anywhere near enough business, but I've heard online they're looking to do their business towards the end of the window, which just complicates me trying to predict this, to be honest. But it's all felt a bit slow in the club. The managerial change, the recruitment, it's all been slow. And I just don't know if they can push for playoffs because of that. Nonetheless, though, I think they could overachieve this season, so we will see. 8th, I've gone with Millwall. They got very close last season. And I just feel like once more they will be very close again, but just miss out on the playoffs in 8th. They have a solid group across the pitch. They've kept hold of their key players. They've added to the squad with more quality. They'll definitely be competitive, but I think they will just about miss out. 7th, I've gone with Birmingham City. And this is a gut feeling. They've done exceptionally in the transfer window. Their strength in depth is top class across the pitch. They already had a good team from League One, but they've just gone and taken this team to much bigger levels. They're an ambitious football club, and I've got no doubts that if they were close to playoffs, they would go big in January to try and get in, similar to Wrexham. But I think Birmingham will probably be closer. But despite that, I still feel like playoffs might be a stretch for them, simply because we just haven't seen what they can do with this squad in the Championship yet. And this is purely based on their League One success and the business they've done. And all that's going to take time to gel, obviously. So it's not factual that it's all just going to click for Birmingham and they're going to perform massively. But I've seen other people predicting this league, and many people have had them in the playoffs, around that third margin even. So I'm saying they could even go for automatics. I'm not sure about that. That's a big stretch for me. But yeah, I think 7th is about right for them. 6th, I've gone with Coventry. Now, they've not done a whole lot of business this summer, to be honest. However, they did already have a good group of players, which I think could push for playoffs again. Frank Lampard's proven himself capable at Coventry, which is good to see. And I do think they will deliver another playoffs finish this season. I think they'll get more business done this summer, which will give them a boost. But yeah, I think this squad even now is fairly capable of doing it. They got a very good team. They made playoffs last year. There's no reason, in my opinion, why they can't do it again. 5th, I've gone with Norwich City. They were one of the best attacking teams in the league last season. Only Leeds scored more goals than Norwich. But at the other end of the pitch, they have had problems. Norwich have had a pretty busy summer. They got a lot done. I rate the new manager, Liam Manning, and he will be hoping that his defensive additions will help the team. And I think they will allow them to climb up the table into the playoffs this season. The attack has also had more quality brought in, and albeit players like Borja Sainz have gone, potentially Josh Sargent as well, they do look an exciting prospect for the new season, and it'll be interesting to see if they can deliver. 4th, I've gone with Leicester, and there's a lot of unknowns with Leicester this season. They may well be about to be hit with a point deduction, which is rumoured to be around 9 points. They've also been slow to make signings to add to the squad and have lost some key players like Jamie Vardy, albeit last time they were in the Championship he didn't do an awful lot, did he? But I still think this is a very good squad, which is more than capable of going up automatically. But I think there's some very good teams in this league who will put pressure on Leicester and will beat them to the automatic spots, especially if Leicester are docked points. 3rd, I've gone with Sheffield United. I think they've obviously got a high quality team, which I have no doubts will be at the very least in the playoffs this season, and could make a big push for automatics, again like they did last year. But despite that, I do think it'll be just 3rd again for them. They're going to have to adjust to a new manager, which can take time, and will probably be a high point scoring push for the top 2 places in the Championship. I think a slow start could kill off their chances. 2nd, I've gone with Ipswich Town. And yeah, this could have easily been my first place. I see it as Ipswich or my number 1 team to win the league. Ipswich, I still think will lose key players like Amari Hutchinson, which might just make the difference between 1st and 2nd. Overall, though, they have such a strong squad, which is above the Championship level. Certainly, they have probably the best manager in the Championship, and they're probably a couple players away from me making them my comfortable 1st place. I think they're just going to come short, though, in this prediction. And that means 1st place, obviously, Southampton. I mean, I just look at that squad and it's top 2 guarantee, ultimately. It's between them and Ipswich, as I say. I really rate the new manager, Will Still. I think he's a top manager, from what I've seen of him anyway. I firmly believe he will be a good fit for the club as well. He looks like he will be. And yeah, they've done good to keep hold of many of their key players so far. There is room for players to leave. I mean, I'm talking about Hutchinson leaving Ipswich, but Dibbling could easily lose Southampton. They've just lost Ramsdale. If they lose Dibbling as well, that could be a big blow for them, but I still think they've got a very high quality squad that looks like they could very easily win the title. I mean, if they do lose Dibbling, they're probably going to have to replace him. They certainly need to bring in depth. But I think they've got the better squad over Ipswich, to be completely honest. And I think it's certainly going to be an automatic place for Southampton alongside Ipswich. And I just think they're going to just pip Ipswich to the title and win it. Maybe on the last day. So yeah, that is my championship predictions for this season. Let me know if you think they are even remotely accurate. And yeah, see you in the next video.